And there it is. It's Friday. Yay! This has quickly become like my favorite day of the huddle. It's just so great.
The Huddler and the Hotseat segment is a great one, and obvious, and we're continuing to backlog people. We've got the Google sheet, we've got it continuously updated. So if you are interested in being a Huddler in the Hotseat, you should reach out. And yeah, it's a great segment. I'm super excited about today's.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've known our guest Andy Cagnetta for like 30 or 40 years, something stupid. And his story, his style, who he is, how he conducts himself is just so great. And I'm thrilled that he's here far beyond the show. He's just really one of those quality people. So before we jump in and do all of the festivities, I do want to recognize you, sir, for yesterday. Fantastic back room seat for me, man. I got to sit. They asked me, I got there. They go, where do you want to sit? I want to be in the back of the room. I want to see everybody's reaction. I want to see you in all your glory. I wanted to not engage as hard as that is for me. And I think it was just remarkable.
We've got a CCIM member here. Davis Hawks is here. So shout out to you. Thanks for joining us this morning on the Huddler, on the Nudelberg Daily Huddle. But so the thing that, you don't know really, like I didn't get a list of attendees before I was speaking there. So you don't really know the audience until you get there. And most presentations tend to be one kind of audience or another. They don't tend to be a wide variety or a wide spectrum. Yesterday's presentation was in front of a generational gap that was very large.
Very kind. That's really kind. There was
and so
old, there was mid, and there was very young.
So that to me is like, as you're getting ready to go in, you have it, you know the presentation, the information you want to deliver, but part of being a good presenter is connecting to the audience. And so figuring out how you're going to try to connect with that range of people individually is a fun exercise to try to go through in your mind before you get started. But it was great. And I
thought you did amazing. You did really just a really
well,
great
the feedback was awesome. I know Nick said that he was really pleased with it. And there was a ton of great, people bought books and wanted to take pictures.
Join GOTB.
We had people join the GOTB community, so it was really successful.
And the young, she's in, and I haven't seen Candy in 10 or 15 years. But I did not remember this. But the way I met Chris Pollock was I was speaking at an event, and he reached out and said, "I've known Andy Cagnetta for ever." So it's just the world is so small. The world is so great. I don't want to steal any time from Andy. He's amazing. So let's do Shay. We got to wake this thing up.
Wake up, everybody. Get up, get up, get up, get up. Wake up. Come on, come on. Wake up, everybody. Teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen what you have to say. Wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed. No more doctor thinking. Time to thinking ahead. Come on.
All right. So the way we set the segment up is we have Huddler in the Hot Seat music. We'll come out of that. And then I have specific walk-up music for my friend Andy, who is as great an entrepreneur he is. He's also a great guitarist. So, but this song just captivates him. I love it. So Shay, give us all this fun music.
Did you hear about it? That's life. That's what all the people say. You're riding high in April, shot down in May. but I know I'm gonna change that tune. When I'm back on top in June.
That's
So,
right.
the reason why I picked that song is there is nobody I know who has a better outlook on life. Welcome to the Huddle, Andy Cagnetta.
Thank you, guys. It's so good to be here, and been a fan. And shout out to everybody watching, including Chris and Angie and Lindsay and Casey and so many friends out there, Sherry. So it's so great.
Mark,
So we have to start it the way that we start always, which is give us your story.
I keep saying I'm just a kid from New Jersey, right? So met my wife when I was doing an entrepreneurial thing up in Connecticut, and she wanted to move home to South Florida. And I had bought and sold a business up there, small little business, pasta shop, which kind of leads to another story, as you know. So, so we decided to move down to South Florida, met with a bunch of business brokers, felt like I was in a used car sales room for the most part, until I met Transworld. And Transworld was really nice to me, amazing people, Don and Bonnie Parrish. And they invited me to join the team. I joined the team, and 2 years later, I bought the company. We were one office. Met Steve right around that time. We were one office in Fort Lauderdale, trying to build it. Grew it to 10 offices in Florida. And 13 years ago, we decided to franchise, and we partnered with United Franchise Group up in West Palm, and now have grown a international franchise, and just amazing people involved and good partnerships. And it's been a wild ride.
Yes,
So how do you go from
wait. How many? So from those initial offices, what's the head count now for total franchises?
Yeah, we have over 200 200 units across the world, and it's
super successful.
Yeah,
it's an awesome story. But I gotta know, how do you go from a pasta shop to a business brokerage? Like, obviously you had some kind of knowledge about buying and selling businesses from buying the pasta shop, but that's a significantly different business than I would assume having brokerages around the world. So how does that happen?
A little bit of trial and errors. I had been in a few businesses. I had been in the cell phone business before. Steve and I both, selling cell phones at $2,000 a piece and installing them in cars. So I'd been in a couple of businesses before. I've always been entrepreneurial. So I don't think that was foreign to me, trying to run a business. I have to say, I thank my staff all the time for putting up with a guy who never really ran a big business. And, literally I've grown up into the business over the years. And I think, it's pretty special.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I knew you then. I knew you growing it. Obviously, I think I'm even closer to you and your wife now than I was at any time in our life. You have never changed your abilities, your skill sets, but how you approach the biggest asset in business, how you approach people, is just magnificent. I have never, ever heard anybody say anything bad about you. And I don't know many people that could be said.
Sometimes people ask me what my goal is, in life. And I always say, like, when I'm gone, for people to say, "Oh yeah, Andy Cagnetta, good guy." I mean, like, if that's my memorial, it's all good. I had worked, and I think this is a really important lesson. I have worked for some really bad people, and I always vowed that if I was ever in charge, I would never ever treat people like that. Like, there's a bunch of lies going on, a bunch of politics going on, and I always wanted to avoid that. And I always wanted to be treated. I always treat people with respect. I'm always willing to take out the garbage. I'm always willing to clean the dishes. Because I think you lead by example. So
can you unpack what it means to grow up inside the business a little bit and go from being entrepreneurial and wanting to always being around running a business or knowing what it's like to run a business, but really getting serious about putting in processes and systems and structure that allow you to scale from 1 to 10 and 10 to 200?
Yeah, you need help. I mean, you need partnerships, and you need to continue to learn. I'm very fortunate that I've been able to transition. I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs that just like, hey, and they come to us and they're like, this business is too big for me. I just don't like this. I like starting them and I like seeing them, but I don't like running them and I don't like running people. And it's a different, skill set. And I have to say, one of the things that I think helped me was getting involved in charity. You get involved with charities and the bigger the charities, the bigger the leaders that are involved, the more strategic planning you do, the more budgeting you do, and all that stuff teaches you how to run a company. So I'm fortunate.
I'm really glad you said that, because early on when I met you, and I think I met you through QAM, I think, when you were a radio voice, I was a radio voice, but it was this philanthropic piece, which you started very early. Now you've taken it to the absolute pinnacle. I mean, you've been on the board or the board chair of a lot of local charities. I mean, your efforts have produced real tangible results. But why don't you give people some insight into how you parlayed the pasta business into something that is one of the most fun and best charity events I go to?
Yeah, I have a hard time saying no to things. I think that's one of the reasons why I kept moving up in the ranks of some of these charities. But my first charity was LifeNet for Families. It's a soup kitchen, emergency food pantry, Broward Boulevard. And I got involved early on through a chamber networking event. One of the workers at LifeNet was sitting there and she came to the lunch one day and she was crying. And I'm like, everybody's like, why are you crying? She's like, because the air conditioner is out. I'm like, oh, I can help you. And this was on Talent Liquors, if you know where that is, like on Broward Boulevard, right? So that's where we were. And the air conditioner was out. So I got involved and got some air conditioning companies, tried to raise some money. And the executive director was really impressed. So she says, hey, why don't you be on my board? And I'm like, what's a board? I mean, literally that was what I said. And she invited me to be on the board. And, eventually we built our building and we had no money at the time even when we were done building the building. And I said, everybody's got to do something on the board to raise money this year. I don't care what you do. And one person said, I'm going to have a cocktail party or, wine tasting and I'll raise money. I'm like, great idea. I'm going to cook dinner for everybody here because I used to own a pasta shop. And I could cook dinner for everybody here and show them our new facility. And so that's what we did the first time. We raised about $300. We had about, 30 or 40 or 50 of us. You probably were there. I mean, literally I just gathered my friends and my family. And, over the years, it got bigger and bigger. And another big break involved with Leadership Broward, and Signature Grand. Michael Berry was involved at that time, and he came to the pasta dinner at LifeNet, and we had 2 seatings, and it was a mess, no parking. And he said, "You're moving this to Signature Grand." And I'm like, "Can't do that." And he's like, "No, we're going to make it happen." So then we moved it to Signature Grand, and over the years, I mean, this is the 21st year on Sunday, and it will be. We have 850 people at least coming. We shut it down. It's sold out. And we've had, anywhere from 800 to 1,000 over the last 4 or 5 years and raised, last year we raised $365,000. And, we're on track to do something like that again. And it's been $2.5 million later,
So Mark, you obviously have never been there. You'll be there this year for the first year with Jake and with your 2 boys. We'll make it a family affair. But what's so incredible about that event is that you can actually buy a pallet of food that goes directly to people. And it's like, bang, here. So while you're there, you see, the reach that this kind of stuff can have. And the people who run it are as humble as could be. We got involved. Shay and I and the team at On the Ball got involved and said, "Hey, we're gonna do this pro bono, and we'll see what we can do." And we brought social media to the party, which all of a sudden people came out of the woodworks and say, "I've heard about it, but I've never been there." So I love the fact that you take charity and use it for business. But Mark, I'm going to spin the dial here and say, when you came to me and said, "Dad, I want to get involved in something. I'm not really sure what to get involved in. What did I do?"
You said talk to Andy. That's the first thing you said. Reach out to Andy and ask Andy where you should join and where you should be a part of. And so, and I'm so appreciative because I did my homework. I researched some things and tried to figure out which ones I thought were the right fit, but I brought them to our conversation. And for sure, you mentioned one that wasn't even on my list. And you were like, look, if you were going to do one, this is the one that you should do. And then you invited me and it was a great experience to go, and I'm looking forward to what else happens there. But I want to ask a question to you because I know for me and the people that we work with, time management is a huge topic of teaching and understanding and being successful. For somebody who manages a franchise that has 200 units across the world, and as philanthropic as you are and as well connected as you are and as involved as you are, and you have a hard time saying no to things, or at least did, how do you manage all of that?
You need help. You need a tolerant wife. I have an amazing wife in Allison, and you need help. And you're right. I mean, Steve, you guys got involved at the pasta dinner early on, brought social media to it. BBX Capital, which was Bank Atlantic at the time, lent their talents to it. United Franchise Group helped run it for a couple of years. It was like every time it got a little bit bigger, everybody was kind of like jumping in and kind of bringing it too. So you have to have partnerships. I think that's it's really hard to build a huge business and like own 100% of it at the end. And not have partners and not have strategic alliances. At some point you have to be able to let go of control. And that's really hard for a lot of solo entrepreneurs, those guys, those founders.
Mark, do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I've never met anybody like that before,
and it's hard. I mean, it's hard. And I talked to Steve about it a few times, and even if it's your son, sometimes that's even harder, right? Sure. So you have to realize whatever you're working in is bigger than you. I mean, unfortunately, we're all not going to be here someday. And if you want something to last, you just have to be able to give it out, give it up. So,
yeah.
So awesome. Along this charity line, I get invited to an event a couple of years ago, and it's like something like the Battle of the Bands. And I get invited, I think it might've been United Way, who knows, and get invited to Revolution, cool place. I don't really pay attention to who's there. It's going to be CEOs playing music. And I'm going just because it's the right thing to do. And all of a sudden they announce Andy Cagnetta and his band. And let me tell you something, this guy laid it out, man. So talk to us about your passion for music and guitars.
My family built guitars in New York from 1890 to about 1980, about 90 years. I always thought I was going to be in the guitar business. I actually, very fortunately, talk about just like I was working in a restaurant, and I always used to say my dreams to work in a guitar factory. And one of the girls was like, I know somebody who works at a guitar factory. And I wound up at Kramer and BC Rich. And so we're always playing, always having fun, passionate hobby. And, we've thrown together a couple of bands. And, again, my philosophy is surround myself with great people. So we've had some incredible bands with some really talented people just, join us up on stage. So it's been great.
So as somebody who's done so much, worked in a lot of different businesses, worked in restaurants, run a pasta shop, has grown into business brokerage, what are some of the underlying principles? I always think that there are through lines, or there are always those transferable skills that have made you successful as you've moved from thing to thing. What are those things for you that you point to that were like, these were the things that have carried me through it all?
One of them is I believe in people. I do believe in people, and I know people make mistakes. I mean, I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs that are very frustrated with people. They're short with people. They don't give them a chance. They don't give them a chance to make mistakes. I think that's a big thing. The other thing is I believe in marketing, right? So I always have a marketing head. I often say to people, why is other brokerages sometimes not successful? It's because they run it like a brokerage. I run it like a business. We need the market. We need the market every day. We need to pay for marketing. We need to pay for marketing that doesn't work. I love guys. Well, I'm not sure I'm going to do a sponsorship this year for whatever I'm trying to sell, whether it be a charitable event or one of our conferences. I'm not sure I want to do that because I didn't get anything from it. It's like, no, you didn't get anything from it because you didn't work it, number one. Number two is you have to be consistent. You have to keep at it. I mean, sometimes things don't work.
Right. Oh my God.
Or they don't work
That's
the
so
first time, which you were consistent. Like from day one, you got on, you followed a similar roadmap to me. We were out there, man. We spent the money to be out there just to be one of the choices, which you became. It was like, who is this guy, Andy Cagnetta? Because you were on the radio just like I was. So it was, good for you for having that philosophy. And listen, conventional wisdom would say only 50% of advertising works. You just don't know which 50%. So
you don't, and it all works, right? It's just a matter of how much. I think if I bought a Super Bowl commercial for $7 million, I would have gotten some leads. The question is, would I got my $7 million back? And the answer is probably no, but it would have made a big splash, of course. And I, like you said, getting out there on the radio. I mean, probably listening to the radio. Say there's 50,000 people at any one time listening to QAM or whatever we were advertising on. Maybe 1%, 2% owned the businesses. But how many people who influence business owners? Was it the accountants? Was it the attorneys? Was it the wives? Was it the husbands of business owners that knew that business owner to get out? I mean, most business owners are not ready to admit they need to go. It's, it's the people around them that have to tell them.
So what's your marketing strategy? Like back then, radio was the thing because radio was the thing. There were few avenues where everybody's eyeballs were. Marketing has significantly changed from the time that I was a kid hanging out in the QAM studios to where we are now, that we know that LinkedIn is such a powerful tool. So how has your marketing strategy evolved, and what does it look like now?
Yeah, well, it does look different. Obviously, the online thing is huge, right? And sometimes it's really hard to track again effectiveness. We have an advertising fund at Transworld. We have like incredible people that are involved in it. We have our KPIs. We're tracking our leads. Now we can track a lot easier where these leads come from. And still, it's really hard to determine where a lead comes from. Somebody says, well, I got your email. It's like, yeah, but I know Andy for 20 years. I know him from the pasta dinner. I used to hear him on QAM. I mean, like, where did it come from? You have to be able to, you have to become a trusted advisor. And the amazing thing about LinkedIn and the amazing thing about this is you have an opportunity to basically do it for free. I mean, nothing's, we're on StreamYard right now. Somebody just mentioned my fancy microphone. Yeah, you got to upgrade it. I have lights. I spent a little bit of money to make sure we look good. I mean, we want to make sure, you have the opportunity to do this basically for free.
Yeah, right.
Get out there.
Okay. Well, you guys want to join GOTB now? Because
I want to close with one final question. For me, there was no non-negotiable about family. We have a hashtag FOE. I know you drive in that same lane. So talk to us about what family means to a crazy entrepreneur who's building.
So of course I have my wife and my daughters, and of course they come first. And I tried to spend as much time as I could. You do have to make sacrifices as an entrepreneur. There's just no way that you're going to be the 100% father. If there's anything I regret is missing some of the things that I missed. But I have a very close relationship with my daughters. But family goes beyond just the people you're related to. I consider Transworld my family. I consider you guys my family. I consider the people that we know in the community. If I had to say goodbye to everybody, I wouldn't stop just at my family. I mean, it'd be, my immediate family, everybody's family. There's people at Transworld that have been working with me for over 20 years. I mean, I've probably spent more time with them, some of them, than my kids. And they're like family to me. And we literally call each other brothers and sisters. I call Melanie Geddes at LifeNet. She's my sister. I mean, because that's how close I am to her. She's amazing. So,
and in a nutshell, Mr. Cagnetta, because of the way you think, everybody thinks of you as family as well. So,
right.
I am thrilled to call you a friend. Thrilled to be, supporting your efforts. You definitely lead the way in a way that everybody could take something away from. Mark, you want to bring us?
The pasta dinner is Sunday. We're super excited to be there. I'm assuming people can't still get into the dinner, but how can they get involved with it if they're looking to buy a pallet of food or do something to help support?
You could go to andysfamilypastadinner.com and make a small donation. And if you message me through LinkedIn, I'll tell you that if you really want to get in, I'll sneak you in. Just
So this is the final note. It's who you know.
It's always about who you know.
I know Jessica Rodriguez from Cloud9, who's running it this year, done a fantastic job. And if she were listening right now, she'd be screaming,
"No, so mad at you! Stop it!" My hope is that everybody who's watching the Huddle right now or listens to it today ends up messaging you on LinkedIn, being like, "Hey, we want to hang out at the pasta dinner."
That's a ton of fun. It's a casual. We eat pasta and meatballs. We drink a little wine. There's a lot of great people, a lot of great dialogue.
Drink casual 4 to 7 p.m. Bring the kids. There's a kids room. It's a family friendly event. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, good. Matt's coming. Greg Goldstein's
the
coming.
whole Nudelberg family will be there.
Lindsay, you don't already have tickets? Come on.
Kids, grandkids, everybody's going to be there. So you asked for it, Andy. Now you're going to get it. So here we go.
You know what? We will sponsor a Huddler section.
A huddle table. I like it. A huddle table.
Thank you so much for spending the time. I look forward to giving you a big hug on Sunday, and thank you for being who you are.
I'm so glad the family's coming. Love you, brothers. Talk to you
Thanks,
soon.
Andy. Have a great day. Have a great weekend, guys. We will see you on Monday.
No, we will not.
Oh, no, we will not. It's President's Day on Monday. We're off on Monday. We will see you on Tuesday for the Huddle. Let's get down to business.
Please don't worry about me. I'm about to let my heart speak. My friends keep telling me to leave this. So let's get down to business. Let's get down